Hey everybody, my name is Paul Esden Jr., aka Boy Green. Welcome to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. And another title I just picked up over the last couple of weeks is New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. And that's where we start today. It's a mock draft Monday. It's finally draft week. It's my favorite time of the year. I'm also recording this on my birthday, April 26th. Here on a Monday, and I got to tell you, I look forward to the NFL draft every year, and for the first time ever on a Mock Draft Monday video series here on my YouTube channel, we're not going to go not one, not two, not three, not four, not five. We're going a full 7-round New York Jets mock draft here on the show, and I already have a full 2,000 word plus written piece, my longest piece ever. It is on heavy.com. You can also look it up on Facebook, Heavy on Jets. Give them a like. It's a brand new Facebook page we created for this new site that I'm now the head of as the digital reporter for heavy.com, covering all things New York Jets. I'm excited for this opportunity. I'm excited to be back in front of video form with you guys, and I'm going to be going through this mock draft. You can check it out. You can follow along while you're watching the video. I also have the link down in the YouTube description down below, and you can follow along because I'm going to give you the written word. I'm going to tell you who I picked, but also I'm hoping with this video I can kind of explain the why a little bit more. You're kind of in written form. You're kind of in a phone booth as you're writing, but I'm hoping the video element can provide some of my rationale, some of my thought process going through a 7-round mock draft exercise ahead of the NFL draft, which is, of course, April 29th is Thursday. You have Friday, April 30th, which is day 2, which is the second and third round. Day 1, obviously, is the first round. And then finally, one of my favorites is day 3. That's Saturday, where you get rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I just love the NFL draft, and I hope that comes across this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Give this video a big thumbs up. Again, we pump out only exclusively New York Jets-related content. Draft content, free agency, games, everything from pillar to post. So I really hope you guys enjoy the content. So let's get right into the 7-round New York Jets mock draft. Again, you can also check it out on heavy.com. The link to this article is down below, but I'm going to be explaining some of the reasons, some of the rationale through the 7-round mock draft as well. Here on a mock draft Monday for draft week, it's finally here. So second overall, the New York Jets select, drum roll please, Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU. Again, it's been speculated for weeks. This isn't a surprise by any means. This is the quarterback that the Jets have, quote-unquote, zeroed in on over the last couple of weeks, months, what have you, as they've gone through the process here. And it all became assured that the Jets were taking a quarterback with the number 2 pick once they traded Sam Darnold back on April 5th to the Carolina Panthers. And I'll tell you this, guys, that I am glad that the Jets are taking a quarterback, because clearly that was the only choice. You either take a quarterback or trade back. And I'm glad that, there's none of this Penny Sewell nonsense or anything else that had been floating on my timeline over the past couple of months. I really did not appreciate it. But here's the thing. This is a legacy-defining selection for Joe Douglas. This is his second draft. He's been with the Jets for about 22 months and change. And how we perceive Joe Douglas and his legacy all depends on what happens here with Zach Wilson. If Zach Wilson sucks, Joe Douglas will be out of a job and we'll never hear from him again. If Zach Wilson is the superstar a lot of analysts I trust, love, and believe in say he is, then Joe Douglas is going to be a hero here with the New York Jets. He has his handpicked head coach, that being Robert Saleh. He has his handpicked quarterback in Zach Wilson now, and we will see how it happens. Now, we have to address the obvious elephant in the room, and that is Sam Darnold. And what went wrong with Sam Darnold? Now, part of that was obviously Sam Darnold. He didn't he had the turnover issues, reads, progressions. There's all kinds of things that went into why Sam Darnold failed. But part of it, we have to agree, and that is personnel decisions, that is instability, that is coaching. All of those reasons did not help Sam Darnold by any means. The Jets are hoping to flip that narrative this time around with their quarterback again. The Jets make history here. This is the first time in the modern draft era, which is 1970 and beyond, where a single team drafted a quarterback in the top 4 picks in such a short amount of time in between now and what it was 2018 NFL draft. So with that being said, a couple of quick nuggets on Zach Wilson. Again, his ability off platform, his insane, talent level, his accuracy is deadly. Fitting the ball in a tight window, again, is just incredible. And here was a nugget from Todd McShay. I also included this in the article. This is what some league insiders like about Zach Wilson. Quote, they love how he thinks about the game, specifically the ability for Wilson to recall during games and his understanding what defenses are trying to do to scheme against him. So he's just very cerebral. That would probably be the word I would use, is just he is very aware. So, okay, they're running a lot of this against me. Let me do this. It's very Tom Brady-ish. Not that I'm trying to compare those guys, but just very cerebral. Very cerebral. Let's go to the 23rd overall pick. This pick, thanks to the Seattle Seahawks and the Jamal Adams trade, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker, Notre Dame. Now, we all knew the Jets were going Zach Wilson number 2. So, okay, pass the biscuits. That's phenomenal. But linebacker here, Paul? Now, again, the Jets could go in a lot of directions here. They could go interior offensive line. They could go corner. They could go edge. They could go linebacker as I went here. And some people haven't gone running back. Again, 23 is a bit too rich for me for running back. We'll get into that a little bit later. But for me, JOK, Notre Dame, is the Swiss Army knife, quite frankly, that is too hard to pass up here for the Jets. I know there were some flirtations last year when the Jets had the 11th overall pick. We were talking about Mekhi Becton and things of that nature. One of the streams of conversation we had was potentially going with Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson, who is a similar Swiss Army knife in a different way from last year's draft. The Arizona Cardinals ended up snagging him. But I'll tell you this about JOK. This is a guy, and it may be a surprising pick to some, but this is a guy that at linebacker, in a 4-3 scheme, you have C.J. Mosley in the middle. Jared Davis is going to slide outside to the other outside linebacking spot, and then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is going to slide to the other spot. He is a guy that can line up anywhere. And I got to give a shout out to Connor Rogers. A lot of these nuggets and info that I've dug up was from the Connor Rogers Badlands Jets draft guide. I have a lot of draft guides, so I kind of just try to absorb as much information from the insiders and experts and then watch my own tape and watch my own feelings. And I blend all that together, and that's what you hear coming out of my mouth. So I got to give a shout out to Connor Rogers, who, kind of watched tape and logged where JOK lined up. He lined up on the defensive line. He lined up at linebacker. He lined up outside corner. He just lined up everywhere on the football field, and he's such a freak. And I think, again, Robert Saleh would be licking his chops to get a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He's a talented player. He's a guy that I think could immediately help this team. Now, you could argue there's bigger needs on this team, but the fact of the matter is, and I'll give the honorable mention here, the other move I would have made is potentially moving up in the 2021 NFL draft, going after one of those elite guys, whether it's Rashawn Slater if he started to slide. My personal favorite is Elijah Vera Tucker. He's the guy I would love. If he's there at 23, forget JOK, you go Elijah Vera Tucker. But at this point, I feel like with all the teams that are in front of the Jets could all go offensive line, whether it's Indianapolis, whether it's Tennessee, Las Vegas, Washington, all these teams in front of the Jets could go offensive line. So I don't think he could sit back. If he starts to slide, right, Elijah Vera Tucker's there at 14, 15, even 16 with the Arizona Cardinals. I did an article for Heavy on Jets talking about the 3 potential trade-up packages the Jets could kind of entice themselves with. 16 with Arizona is a very tempting spot. So that's a potential place to get Elijah Vera Tucker. But if they stay pat, JOK is one of my favorite players in this draft, and he just checks off, again, every box that you're looking for from that perspective at linebacker. So that would be the other first-round pick for me. Now, let's go to the second round, 34th overall. This is my favorite pick of the draft, not just because of the player. Like, the player I picked, and I'll get into that in a second, is great. But I just love being able to reset the board. Day 1 is in the books. Day 2, you've got, basically the equivalent of, it's not quite 24 hours. It's a little less than that, but essentially 24 hours to reset the board, take trade calls, evaluate what you want to do. That's a great trade spot. Potentially the Jets could decide to trade back and accumulate a lot of picks. They could just take a player, because always this happens every year. And take this from a guy who's a diehard NFL draft fan, okay? Players slip in the draft. They're available on day 2, and you're like, oh, my goodness, I couldn't believe. Last year, guys like T. Higgins. In the past, guys like Landon Collins and so many other talented players, Michael Pittman Jr., players in history that have just dropped to the second round, and then they get scooped up right there, and they're great playmakers. Here's my guy, Creed Humphrey, center, Oklahoma. And for me, you got to surround talent around Zach Wilson. I just kind of went on that whole diatribe to start this video as it pertains to Zach Wilson, surrounding him with talent. And there's no other way to put this. Creed Humphrey would be a home run selection for the New York Jets. This is a plug-and-play guy that is going to be your starting center for the next 10 to 15 years. And the Jets, quite frankly, have been spoiled rotten with centers, really great centers over the years. 2 in particular, you got Kevin Mawai, who from 98 to 2005 held down the fort, a Football Hall of Famer. Then right after that, he basically snapped it to Nick Mangold, who was the second of 2 first-round picks back in that 2006 NFL draft, and he carried the torch for 10 years. And the Jets just had these elite centers, like Nick Mangold, future Ring of Honor member. You have Kevin Maguire, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Let's get back to that. That relationship between the quarterback and the center is so vital, so paramount to everything that goes with the offense. And again, Creed Humphrey, just talking about the player, he's incredible. He's a 2-time captain. He's a guy that is just super consistent. You watch the tape. This is a consistent guy, just day in, day out, punches in, punches out. And this would work for a variety of reasons. I know the Jets were a bit hesitant to kick Connor McGovern to guard earlier in the offseason. That's why they apparently didn't chase Corey Linsley in free agency or one of those center options. To me, Jets, let's make this easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Draft Creed Humphrey. You plug him right in at center. Connor McGovern kicks to guard. And then the other guard spot, which we'll address later in this NFL draft, worst case, let them compete. Let Alex Lewis and Greg Van Roten punch each other out for the other guard spot, and you're great. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. You plug in Creed Humphrey, you solve one of the guard spots with Connor McGovern for at least right now, and you get a great center. I know the Jets are super high on what they believe Connor McGovern can do in this new scheme, but I would just go with the center, and Creed Humphrey is a guy that I think could be there. Now, some people may be watching this or reading the article in conjunction with me talking about it and say, Paul, there's no friggin' way that Creed Humphrey is available in day 2. But I'll tell you this. Guards slip all the time. Interior offensive linemen are not valued in the same way that offensive tackles are. So it is super possible that Creed Humphrey could be available here at the start of day 2, because guess what? Players like that are always available here at this point, and he's the guy I would want. So let's stop questioning. I don't the guy in the back of the room, Mr. Esden, Mr. Boy Green, I don't think that's possible. Just shut up. Don't question it. Accept it. Watch it on draft day happen, and then thank me later. Thank you very much. Creed Humphrey, again, a phenomenal player, and let's help with a hog Molly right up front. Now, as we progress here through day 2, the Jets have 2 third-round picks. We'll start off with the first one, 66th overall. Ifeatu Melifonwu, Syracuse cornerback. And I'll tell you, if Ifeatu Melifonwu is on the board here in the 3rd round, I will run up the pick for the New York Jets and say, here, take it. Because Ifeatu Melifonwu is such a talented freak. For me personally, the draft stock is super rangy. I've heard some people like Sam Monson believe that he could go a surprise dark horse late 1st-round pick, and I think he's talented enough to warrant that. And I think the cornerback position in general, I think people may jump the biscuit on that one. So I could definitely see him be a late 1 guy or an early 2 guy. But there are some analysts out there that believe he will be available in the 3rd round, so I use that as the backing for this selection. And the Jets are going Ifeatu Melifonwu. And it would make a lot of sense for the Jets to go day 2 for corners because, you know, in their zone scheme, I think you could get corners later that could fit the bill. And I think Connor Rogers made a great point about this on Badlands and also in his draft guide. That think about this when you're deciding at 23 or 34 or what to do and what position to go after. Because again, the Jets were 2-14 last year, so they got a lot of potential players and holes to fill, obviously. So one strategy, as Connor noted, is, okay, if you have crappy corners for a year, okay, people just roast you. If you have crappy offensive linemen for a year, then Zach Wilson gets destroyed. So what's the pros and cons? So I think he could get a corner later. And again, if you could get Melifonwu at this point, woo-wee, I think that's a phenomenal pick. A little bit more on Melifonwu. Again, I think if Robert Saleh could build his perfect Frankenstein cornerback prospect on a laboratory table, right, he'd make Ifeatu Melifonwu. He's lanky. He's long. He's versatile. You can line him up all over the place. For the Jets, he would be an outside cornerback in their scheme, but he's 6'2", 80-inch plus wingspan, 32-inch arm, a physical freak, plug-and-play starter on the outside. Now, he's had some durability concerns, some injuries over the years, which are a bit concerning, but he's got NFL blood in his genes. Of course, his brother, Obi Melifonwu, was drafted in the 2nd round a couple years ago by the then Oakland Raiders, who transitioned to the Las Vegas Raiders. And currently, and somewhat ironically, he actually plays for the San Francisco 49ers. Obi Melifonwu signed a deal with the 49ers. So I think Robert Saleh is going to see that, schematically speaking, certainly to be able to potentially go that direction from that standpoint. So again, Fatu makes a lot of sense. I would wait for corner either in round 2, but I think there's going to be value there where you go in a different direction. Round 3 may be the better spot. Connor Rogers, an honorable mention. I won't do this for every pick, but Connor Rogers mentioned a Paulson Adebo at Stanford. That's another potential option, but I'm going to go with my local guy. I'm going to go with Fatu. I think he's a great fit for the scheme. The other third-round pick, the Jets also got this from Seattle, Jackson Carman, guard Clemson. Jets need to do the old discount double check, the old double dip of the chicken nugget and the hot mustard. That's what I'm going with here. So you got Creed Humphrey at center. Phenomenal. You hit Connor McGovern at guard. Great. Now you have another guard spot. What do you do there? I go Jackson Carman. Now, if you look at the tape and you look at the statistics and the analytics, it says Jackson Carman is an offensive tackle. I think he slides in at guard at the next level. I think there are a lot of those kind of players that have positional flexibility and versatility to be able to either were tackles in college. I think he transition to guard. And the great thing about that is you have the break the glass emergency. If something happens to Mekhi Becton, if something happens to George Fant, you have Jackson Carman, who has experience at tackle, kind of kick out if need be. But I think he'd be great at guard. Again, throw him in the mix. Let him fight it out with Greg Van Roten or Alex Lewis, and then cut some of the losers. You can cut a third-round pick in Carman, but, if Alex Lewis loses out, cut him, save the money. Greg Van Roten loses out, cut him, save the money. Although his contract isn't crazy, I would understand if you kept him for depth. But Jackson Carman makes sense. Double dipping at offensive line makes sense. If you want to do it at 23-34, I'd understand that. If you want to do it 34-66, I'd understand that. I think there are a lot of different directions you could go from that standpoint. But for me, Jackson Carman makes a ton of sense. A 6'5", 317-pound behemoth. And again, I want to see the Jets invest in the offensive line. They can't possibly trot out the same starting five they had last year, which, by the way, right now, if the season started today, the Jets starting five would be exactly the same. You have Mekhi Becton, Alex Lewis, Connor McGovern, Greg Van Roten, George Fant. Simply not good enough. Mekhi Becton, a budding star. I like George Fant in this new scheme. The interior is a disaster. They need to fix that. And the 2021 NFL Draft. All right, everybody, let's go to the fourth round. And this is a popular mock draft pick. I will say that. But I don't know how many people have him going in the fourth round. Again, another guy whose value is all over the place. Dwayne Eskridge, wide receiver, Western Michigan. This is a guy I love. And here's the thing. The Jets need one of two things at wide receiver. They need a number one wide receiver. You probably aren't finding that in the fourth round. Or speed. That's what the Jets are missing in their current receiving core. Now, it's way better than last year. Not that that's saying much, with guys like Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder. But what this position group really is missing is elite, unadulterated speed. That's what Dwayne Eskridge brings to the table. And, we're going to go, as we're looking at this wide receiver group, I think they want to add somebody who brings some athleticism to the table and, again, that raw speed. Now, Dwayne Eskridge's story is pretty interesting, and I know it well because Western Michigan and Syracuse kind of had this weird mini rivalry over the last couple of years. And for my day job as a sports talk radio host, I've watched a lot of Syracuse-Western Michigan games in person covering the football team. And I knew Dwayne Eskridge when he was a corner, and then he transitioned. I believe one of the first games he ever transitioned from corner to wide receiver was against Syracuse. So I kind of got the full tape of him there and then what he did eventually at the Senior Bowl. This is a guy that, again, is fascinating. And he is a guy that could go in the second round, but probably third round. But I could see him slip into the fourth because it's a super deep wide receiver class. But I want to see Mike LaFleur get creative. That's why I want to put a guy like this, a go-go gadget, jet sweep motion pop screen kind of athlete that I think could make a lot of sense. Again, he struggles with contested catches, but that's okay. And obviously you draft the guy in the fourth round. There's some warts. There's some reason he's available in the fourth round. He's not a perfect all-around prospect, but again, that's fine. You have Denzel Mims, physical, tough catch. He's that kind of guy. Corey Davis, same kind of thing. They're cut from the same jib, cut from the same cloth. So add someone different. Add speed. That's what Dwayne Eskridge brings, again, in spades. He is a phenomenal player. Let's jump over to the fifth round. Now, this is a position that, depending on who you ask, some people say, oh, it's super high up on what the Jets need. Others, not so much. I'm more so on the latter. I don't think they should completely ignore the edge rusher department, but I think they're okay. They got Carl Lawson, phenomenal, great. Then they got a bunch of other guys. Whether on the interior, Sheldon Rankins, Quinton Williams, Foley Fatukasi is more a run guy. And then at edge, you got Vinnie Curry, John Franklin Myers. You got a bunch of names. Let's throw Patrick Johnson, edge out of Tulane in this mix. The Jets have struggled to rush the passer. Here are some fun facts. I don't call them fun facts, they're actually depressing facts. But nonetheless, let's get right to it. Over the last 15 years, 15, the Jets have had 3 double-digit sack seasons. 2 of them were Muhammad Wilkerson. 1 was Calvin Pace. Did he really do that? I don't know. He really apparently did do that at some point, which is wild because Calvin Pace was never this Dwight Freeney edge rusher, but somehow he cobbled together a 10-sack season. So, but again, 3 double-digit sack seasons in 15 years, 2 coming from the same guy. I mean, that's not great. And the Jets obviously saw that wasn't great, so they said, hey, let's throw $45 million at Carl Lawson. And again, I love that move. We talked about that on my YouTube free agency preview video where I'm like, oh, yeah, Carl Lawson, throw the bag at the guy. Secure the bag, Carl Lawson, and he did. But not one man can solve the Jets' pass rushing issues. They need more than that. So throw in Patrick Johnson out of Tulane, a super intriguing prospect that I think you can just kind of add him to the rotation. Now, shout out to Connor Rogers here, and also a shout out to any NFL draft, either fans or wannabe analysts out there. So many people look at a scheme and say, man, this scheme can only fit this guy, and you're an idiot if you say this player should be drafted by the Jets because technically he doesn't fit the scheme. Well, let me tell you something, fans. Let me tell you something, brother. I don't know why Hulk Hogan came out of nowhere, but let me tell you something, brother, okay? Not everything appears as it is. Connor Rogers is from his draft guide on Patrick Johnson here. He said, quote, watch Dee Ford and the dominant 49ers defense in 2019. It's easy to find the role for Patrick Johnson, end quote. Again, just because schematically speaking or size speaking or trait speaking, they don't initially seem like they fit the scheme, this is what I do, okay? I trust Robert Saleh, the head coach of the Jets, who's just 49ers. He's a former 49er, but he's just a defensive whiz, a defensive mastermind. I trust in Robert Saleh to figure it out. Put talented players on his silver platter and see what he does with them. I trust Robert Saleh to be able to find the difference, make the difference up, and I think he can do that. So Robert Saleh, take Patrick Johnson, go to town, and maybe he's more so a 3-4 outside linebacker if that's what you want to call him, but I think you could have him as a stand-up pass rusher that kind of figures it out on third downs. This is a guy that reminds me a lot of Jordan Jenkins, this being Patrick Johnson. He's going to bring that kind of blue-collar effort. Will he be a 15-sack guy in his career per year? I don't think so, but he could be a rotational guy that brings a refined technical skill set to the table from day one, and that can help the Jets. The more bodies, the more guys that can rush the passer, the better. I just don't think it's one of those top needs. Like if they take it at 23, it would be somewhat surprising because I think there are other needs they should go with, or 34. But again, with kind of the lack of clarity on the top of the edge rushers, who's your guy? Azeez Ojulari, Jalen Phillips, Kwity Paye, whoever your guy is. Everyone seems to have a different guy, which again leads me to believe they can find that later. Let's go to the 5th round. Now, this is a very intriguing player, and I'm a former running back, so here's the time. Javian Hawkins, running back, Louisville. I'll tell you this. No one argues like Jet fans about running back value. You have half of them going, ooh, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, that'd be cool. And then you have others going, nah, you're a dweeb. Any running back, insert any guy, the Mike Shanahan style, insert your grocery bagger, and they'll run for 1,000 yards. Here's the thing. Let me split the difference here. I will say this. If the Jets at 23 take a running back, I will be super upset because I think there's going to be so many talented options there that I would be upset at 20. I'd be like, ugh, that's not good. But if they take him at 34, it would be grossly irresponsible because, that's a first world kind of problem to take a running back that high. But I'll tell you this. How gosh darn exciting would that be, huh? If the Jets get Travis Etienne, who said he wanted to play for the Jets, or Najee Harris, if you get one of those talented dudes, if they're there at 34, while, again, it would be irresponsible because I think there are much more important positions of need, but it would be super exciting. Everyone would be buying that jersey, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, whoever, because that would be a lot of fun. Now, obviously, this mock, that didn't happen, so let's move on. And here's my thing. In today's NFL, you want one of two things. You want a bell cow, an Adrian Peterson type who's just going to carry the load for your team, and that's what hopefully a first-round pick or second-round pick guy like, again, Najee Harris or Travis Etienne would be for you. Or you want a committee. And if you want a committee, to me, the best kind of committee is a lot of different guys that can do a lot of different things. So I'm going to go a little Liam Neeson on you here and say the Javian Hawkins edition here in the 5th round would be a guy with a special set of skills. Again, very Liam Neeson here. And to me, get a lot of different guys that can do different things. Javian Hawkins cannot do everything. But what he can do is bring elite speed to the table. A home run hitter, the ball's in his hands, it could go to the house any play, which of course is exciting. And also, I mentioned it with the Dwayne Eskridge pick a little bit earlier, a little go-go gadget, jet sweeps, motions. Again, Mike LaFleur, the limitations on what he can be is up to the imagination of the offensive coordinator. So for me, J.B. Hawkins, Dwayne Eskridge, you could go crazy. Crossers. I mean, there's so many possibilities here. And again, J.B. Hawkins is a running back, but screenplays, again, whatever. The world is your oyster here. I love J.B. Hawkins. Think he brings a lot of speed. Again, diminutive size, 5'8" guy, not huge, but he's a guy that brings some talent to the table. A guy that can give you that 0 to 60 Ferrari start and stop acceleration. He's a fun toy. He's a fun toy. Circle that one. To me, I think the running backs are super top heavy, and then the rest are all kind of just jags, the just a guy draft term people use. But again, if you can find a specific skill set that you're looking for, hey, you want speed, you want, a grinder, a big, thick, thumping running back, whatever you need, then sure, that's fine. But for the Jets, if you're not going to go with one of the top guys I love, like Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, go with the guy who has got some speed and you can creatively get the ball in his hands. All right, let's get to the end of this 7-round mock draft. Let's go to the 6th round, 186 overall. The Jets select Trill Williams, defensive back, Syracuse. Now, if you heard me earlier, you're like, didn't you already draft a guy from Syracuse? Yes. First off, I do have bias because I'm right here in the Syracuse area as a sports talk radio host talking Syracuse football, basketball, and national Jets, Giants, Bills, and all that jazz. But I got to tell you that Trill Williams is a weapon of mass destruction. And let me clarify that, a versatile weapon of mass destruction. He can line up all over the field. He can play him at safety. He can line him at nickel. But the best description for him is playmaker. During his 3-year career at Syracuse, he forced fumbles, he got interceptions, and he was the architect of what people here in the Salt City called the Rip Six. I'll explain it, but you can watch the video in the 7-round mock draft link that's down below. And basically, here's the scene. It's the last game of the 2019 season. This is an absolutely meaningless game. The Syracuse season sucked. It imploded. They were not going to a bowl game. This meant nothing for Syracuse. And despite it meaning absolutely nothing on the scoreboard, Trill Williams in overtime on this 2nd and goal play, right? There's this wide receiver, Kendall Hinton, who Kendall Hinton, the Broncos guy, that's with the Broncos now. But the fact of the matter is he's this Wake Forest player. He catches the ball. Trill Williams live in the middle of the play. He thinks, oh, my God, the ball's not in his dominant hands. Let me rip it away from him. So he runs up to Hinton and rips the ball away and takes it coast to coast to the house. Boom, game over, walk-off winner. Again, that's just a taste of what Trill Williams brings to the table. He had the SportsCenter top 10 play from when he was in high school. He's just a crazy athlete. The problem is he's a bit of a tweener. Like, what is he? Is he a corner? Is he a safety? Is he a this? Is he a that? He's like a poor man's honey badger, if that's a way to describe him. But he's just a playmaker. Now, one draft analyst I texted with said he's a top 100 pick in this class. Lance Zierlein at NFL.com pegged, again, old Trill Williams here as a 6th rounder. Now, hopefully it's a ladder because the Jets get perhaps the steal of the draft in Trill Williams. But he's another playmaker, and the Jets need guys. They need more bodies in the secondary to kind of figure it out. Again, they got Bless Austin, who's had some injury concerns. He gets a little handsy with penalties. You got Bryce Hall, also an injury background. How good can he be? Javelin Guidry brings a lot of speed to the slot corner position, but limited experience, 2 games last year. So I just had more guys. Ifatu brings you size and versatility, and Trill Williams, another versatile guy that I think he can line up all over the field. And let's go to one of the final picks here of this mock draft. And that is not even a draft pick. They're going to get creative. Now, again, we have to wrap this up, we got a limited sample size here with Joe Douglas. Again, while he's been here for 22 months, he only has 1 draft in the books as the head honcho of the New York Jets. So it's hard to pull, we talked about this with Ethan Greenberg, New York Jets team reporter, that's also on my YouTube channel. You could go back and look for it. But we talked about, hey, are there any takeaways we can make from Joe Douglas's first draft and draw some conclusions? Like, he likes these kind of players. He likes trading. He likes doing this. He likes doing that. Well, I think trading is something that you can take away. First off, Joe Douglas did 3 trades in last year's draft, moving around picks and also doing this strategy. The Jets have an extra 6th-round pick via the Sam Darnold trade from the Carolina Panthers. And I think that's a pick that the Jets can flip for a veteran. They did it in this Joe Douglas era. Last year, traded a 6th-rounder for veteran cornerback Quincy Wilson from the Indianapolis Colts. Now, it didn't really work out, but I like the strategy, just throwing a late-round pick against a wall and for a proven commodity and see what happens, and proven by being some sort of NFL player in some sense. And to me, the guy to do it with this year is David Njoku. So the Jets are going to trade this second 6th-round pick that they got, which, by the way, is 226th overall, and they're going to send that over to the Cleveland Browns in exchange for tight end David Njoku. Now, this is a guy who, by the way, has been on the trade block for a while. He's a former first-round pick, super athletic. He's super talented. And the fact of the matter is there are a lot of Jet fans, by the way, just random aside, that say, oh, man, the Jets should get a tight end with a 34th overall pick or this pick. I'm like, you guys are friggin' bat crazy, because tight end is a luxury position, first off. And secondly, the Jets have much bigger fish to fry. They should not be taking a tight end that high. And here's another reason why they shouldn't be taking a tight end that high. This draft class of tight ends this year is Kyle Pitts out of Florida and then everyone else. Everyone else is a guy. Pat Freiermuth, no. Not doing it for me. Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame, okay, he's interesting, but still no. Here's what I'm doing. It's either Kyle Pitts, which obviously can't happen unless the Jets made some sort of massive trade up, and while I would love it because I think Kyle Pitts is super talented, it would make no sense. So they're not doing that. So instead of just throwing a random mid-rounder that could be used at a different position, what I'm going to do is trade the second 6th-rounder the Jets have for David Njoku. Now, he is a super athlete, great athleticism. And like I said, there were problems last year. Here's a quick story on that. Last year, he asked for a trade after the Browns signed Austin Hooper to this record-breaking deal in free agency. Browns say, nope, sorry, not going to trade you. Then at the trade deadline again, he's like, hey, you want to trade me? Still no? Okay, no big deal. So he's unhappy. He's ready for a change of scenery. Why not the Jets? He's on the last year of his deal, the 5th-year option for $6 million. He'll be super motivated because he wants to live up to that first-round status, and also he wants to earn another contract. And in this Mike LaFleur offense coming from the 49ers, how could David Njoku not at night go, George Kittle, I could be that? Why wouldn't he do that? So for the Jets, you take a flyer on David Njoku. If it doesn't work out, whatever, you move on. No big whoop. It was a 6th-round pick anyway. And on the other side, you bring in a guy like David Njoku, that should motivate Chris Herndon to get the best out of him. To me, it's a win-win. It's a perfect scenario. You throw a 6th-rounder at the wall, you see what sticks, and you take a chance. And that's what I think the Jets do at the end of the 2021 NFL Draft. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for a Mock Draft Monday here on the show with a full 7-round New York Jets mock draft here on the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you like it. Also, make sure if you just watch this video, check out the full article down below from Heavy.com, because I am the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, covering all things New York Jets. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking it out. We're going to have a ton of YouTube content up this week with different draft experts leading all the way into the draft on Thursday night. Hope you could join us. Thanks for joining us for this Mock Draft Monday, and we're getting closer and closer to the NFL Draft, my favorite time of the year, right here on my YouTube channel. Again, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you tell us I'd appreciate it. YouTube.com/BoyGreen25. And quite frankly, a quick wrap-up here. You can follow me on all social media portals at BoyGreen25 on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and everywhere else as well here on the program. We'll see you later this week. We'll try to get out a NFL draft video every day here on the channel all the way through the NFL Draft. Plus, we'll have some grades and post-reaction, and I have some cool, exciting interviews set up as well with some talented draft people. Can't wait for all of that. Thanks, everybody.